نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم وما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم استغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح يا فتاح يا فتاح صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم الأمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته Alhamdulillah, it's a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given me and you the ability and tawfiq to participate in this gathering, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering a source of guidance for all of us, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering one of the means of our entry into Jannah. Inshallah, tonight is our sixth and last session of the Seerah chapter that we started almost 6 weeks ago. This chapter of Seerah was about the early manhood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In our first session, we learned that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he chose to be a shepherd. The first profession that he took as a young man was being a shepherd, and he took care of sheep. And he told us a hadith according to which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never sent a messenger except until and unless he was a shepherd. All Anbiya Karam alayhi wassalam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent, all of them were shepherds. So that was the first thing that we learned in the first session. In the second session we learned the wisdoms that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam start his life in such kind of way. He could have chosen any other profession, that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him start his life in such a humble manner, in such a harsh manner. It was the least paid job. It was the hardest and the least paid job in all of the Arabia, and he started his life as a shepherd. So what was the wisdom behind it? So we learned some of the wisdoms that why Prophet ﷺ started his life as a shepherd. In the third session, we spoke about Fijar wars. That as a teenager, he took part in a wars, in a series of battles that took place between two big tribes of Arabia. One was Kinana and the other was, if anyone remember, Qais. Two big tribes, Kinana and Qais. A series of battles took place between them. Prophet ﷺ was a teenager at that time. He participated in those battles, and he said that I never regretted it. I participated and I never regretted it. In our fourth session, we learned about Hilful Fudul, a contract that took place among the leaders of Quraysh, and Prophet ﷺ was a part of it. And later on he narrated a hadith, he mentioned a hadith in which he said that I was proud of that contract, and even right now, as a believer, as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I were asked to uphold that muahida, that contract, I would be very proudly do so. I'm so proud of that contract that even in Islam, if someone tells me to uphold that contract, I will do it. And I'm not willing to give up my place for a lot of red camels, meaning if you offer me a lot of money and ask me to give up my place in that contract, I would never ever do so. In our last session, which I believe was a very important session of our Seerah class, we learned some of the wisdom, some of the lessons that we can derive from both of these incidents, from both Fijar wars and Hilful Fudul. And one important lesson that we learned in our last session that we drove from the Mu'ahid Fudul, from the contract of Hilful Fudul, is that we need to be socially active. We need to get involved in public causes, because getting involved in public causes is a part of being a good Muslim. So that's what we learned in our last session. Tonight's session is going to be really short, inshallah. I hope it will be short. I don't have much to say, but the topic is very interesting. If you remember, Hilful Fudul, the contract of Hilful Fudul, it took place in a house of a person who is known to be a legendary among the people of Quraysh, among the people of Arabia, in terms of his generosity, in terms of his kindness, in terms of his sincerity. Everyone respect that person. That's why for Hilful Fudul, all the leaders of Quraysh, they convened in their home, in his home. What was the name of the owner of that house? His name was Abdullah ibn Jada'an. Now we learned that Abdullah ibn Jada'an was a very kind and a generous person. And he was a distant uncle of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. But he died before the da'wah began. Before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually became a prophet, he passed away. Now the question, a very natural question that comes in our mind, not only about Abdullah bin Jada'an, but a lot of other people. I remember when Nelson Mandela passed away. The same year, Paul Walker passed away in a tragic car accident. I never knew about Paul Walker, and then I got to know about Paul Walker. And the youngsters were really sad about his death. They came to me and they asked me this question, the question that we are going to discuss tonight. These people who are good and righteous people, who sacrificed so much in their life for the sake of people, they were not selfish people, they were not really thinking about themselves. They were serving the community, they were serving their own nations. For whatever reason, they made a lot of sacrifices. These good righteous people, they never heard the message of Islam and they passed away. What will be their fate? Will Allah forgive them or will Allah punish them? In the same way, Abdullah bin Jada'an passed away before da'wah began. But he was a kind man. He was a generous man. I told you, he was a legendary, not just a kind or a generous man. He was a legendary person among all the people of Quraysh, among all the people of Arabia. Everyone used to respect him. Everyone used to give his example. What will happen to him? The response is multifold. And I'm not directing it to anyone. It's for everyone. It's for all of us. Because this question springs in the mind of a lot of people, like I said. The first and foremost thing that we all need to understand is that what will happen to all these people, and thinking about what will happen to all these people, it is of no benefit to us. This will not take us to Jannah. It will not help us to get to Jannah. What will happen to all those people? If you concentrate too much on this, it can be problematic for you. Then you will only be thinking about these people and you won't worry about your own self. This is a general rule. In Islam, this is a general rule. Whenever you ask questions that are of benefit to you. And we derive this from a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which mentioned in all the books of hadith. In all the Sahih books, most of the Sahih books of hadith. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, my ummah, please listen to this carefully, it's an interesting hadith. He said, my ummah will remain good until they will begin asking questions about the children of idol worshippers. It's a vague hadith, but it's a very interesting hadith. He said, my ummah will remain good until they will begin asking questions about the children of idol worshippers. A lot of ulama, a lot of muhaddithin, they have interpreted that hadith and they said it means that ummah will remain good until they will start debating about the issues that are no concern to them. Really, it doesn't make any difference to them what will happen to all those people. It doesn't make any difference to them. So we leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the most wise, we believe. Allah is the most knowledgeable, we believe. Allah is the most merciful, we believe. And Allah is the most just, we believe. So we leave it up to Allah. Allah will decide, inshallah. We will leave it up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm not saying this. I'm not saying, the ulama have said it. You will find the same kind of statement in the books of theology. One book of theology that I consulted today before I came here is Aqidatul Tahawiyah, which is a famous book of Aqidah. You will find the same statements in that book as well. That the ulama have said that many people have this problem. A lot of us. Again I'm saying, I'm not directing it to anyone. It's for all of us. A lot of people have this problem. They think about other people a lot. They worry about other people a lot. But in Islam, Allah is telling you, عَلَيْكُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. Think about yourself first. You are not going to carry the burdens of other people on the day of judgment. You will carry your own burdens. You will carry your own sins. Right? Think about your own self. And when we don't think about ourselves, and we think about other people a lot, then we go too far. Then we are only thinking about them, and we are not thinking about ourselves, and we think of ourselves all high and mighty. We get lazy, we don't do our ibadah, and we get all high and mighty. So this is the first response. The second response is, having said that don't ask this kind of question, I will still answer that question. So don't be disappointed, inshallah. I will answer this question. I have already answered this question before, but inshallah I will try to answer it again. And I will try to make it more interesting and more simple for you. Before when I did this session, I think I was very academic. And a lot of people didn't understand it. So today, inshallah, I will make it very, very easier for you. Ulama have differed greatly on this issue. The scholars, different scholars, they have a lot of disagreement on this issue. But when it comes to the bottom line, they all agreed on one thing. When it comes to the bottom line of that issue, of that masala, they agreed on one thing. And according to all ulama, if someone has an access to the teachings of Islam, or if someone at least knew monotheism, do we know what monotheism is? Believing in the oneness of God, Tawheed. Even though you don't believe in Islam, but you believe in the oneness. You knew about monotheism, you knew about the oneness of God, and you believed in the oneness of God. You have an access to this knowledge. But at the end of the day, you didn't avail that knowledge. You didn't benefit yourself from that knowledge. Then in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the day of judgment, you will have no excuse. You had an access to the knowledge of Islam, to the teachings of Islam, or at least you knew about monotheism, but still you didn't believe in it. You knew about it. You never believed in it. In the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will have no excuse. Now let's come back to this person, Abdullah ibn Jada'an. This particular person. Abdullah ibn Jada'an, there is a hadith in Bukhari with regards to this person. Had Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, who is a niece of that person, a distant niece, a great-grand niece of Abdullah ibn Jada'an, she asked the same question to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 1400 years ago, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has already answered that question. She asked Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, Ya Rasulullah, my uncle Abdullah ibn Jada'an, he was a nice man. He was a kind man. He was good to his neighbor. He was good to other people. What will be his fate on the day of judgment? What will be his fate on the day of judgment? Prophet ﷺ said he will go into the fire of Jannah. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha was shocked. She said, Ya Rasulullah, but he was a kind man. He was a generous man. He was a kind man. Prophet ﷺ said, yes, he was a kind man. He was a generous man. But never once he said, Rabbi ghfir li. Never once he said, Rabbi ghfir li. It's an interesting issue. It's an interesting thing to know. Because in our time, in today's age and time, you consider that righteousness and piety is something that you're good to other people. If you're good to other people, then khalas. That's all what we want from you. Inshallah, you will definitely go into Jannah if you're good to other people. That's what we think. So if you open an orphanage, if you open a yatim khana in Lahore, in Qasur, mashallah, you will become, world famous. Everyone will make dua for you. No one cares what are your beliefs. No one cares if you believe that God has a son or not. No one cares about this thing because all of this becomes irrelevant if you open an orphanage. So nobody cares about your beliefs, nobody cares about anything else. You open an orphanage, you are good to other people, khalas, alhamdulillah, you are a good person. You are a nice person, you are going into Jannah. For example, you open up a hospital, you give a charity to a madrasa or to a masjid, right? You say salam to everyone, you have a smile on your face, you are good to other people. And you have these qualities. But you don't pray 5 times a day. You sell liquor in your store. You buy things on mortgage. Fine. Still you are a nice person. Still you are a nice person. In this hadith, what are we learning? We are learning one thing. That being good to other people is a good thing. It's a nice or a handy thing. But there is one thing that is more important. Being good to other people, there is one thing that is more important than being good to other people. And that is to believe in the one who created you. And to worship the one who created you. Being good to other people is good. I'm not undermining the importance of this thing. It's a good thing. But worshipping the one who created you, it's better. It's more important. And you tell me, mashallah, you are reasonable people. You are logical, intelligent people. You tell me, what is the point of being good to other people if we are not grateful to the one who has given us the greatest good? What is the point of me being good to you if I am denying the good that Allah has given me, the greatest good that Allah has given me? He has given me this life. He has given me all these abilities. He has given me health. He has given me everything that I have in my life. I'm not grateful to Him. I'm not good to Him, but I'm good to everyone else. Does this make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. So what's the point of being good to other people if you deny the one, who has given you all the goodness in this life? So this guy, Abdullah ibn Jada'an, Prophet ﷺ said, he never said, Rabbi ghfir li. He lived a life carefree of religion. He didn't believe in any kind of religiosity. So why should Allah forgive him? Why should Allah forgive a person who never seeked forgiveness? Why should Allah reward a person who never did anything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's a logical question. Why should Allah reward someone who never did it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In our times, The verdict of piety is based on how good you are to other people, which is fine. But in Islam, the verdict of piety is based on two things. Let's wake up now. Only 5 minutes I'm going to take. So wake up all of you. The verdict of piety is based on only two things. Number one, proper belief. You have to have a belief. And number two, proper actions. Inna alladhina amanu wa amilus salih. You have to have a belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you have to have a proper action. These two things have to go together. If you have one and you don't have the other, then it's of no benefit to you, or it's of no benefit to me. And as a Muslim, I say it very, very clearly. And if you follow me in the salah, and if you believe what I'm telling you, then you should believe in it as well. As a Muslim, I believe that if someone says, I'm a Muslim, and I say, La ilaha illallah, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't guarantee him Jannah. If you just say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, it doesn't guarantee you Jannah. As a Muslim, I believe, and I say it categorically, no human being, I'm not saying no Muslim, no human being has a right to tell anyone that he's going into Jannah or he's going into Jahannam. Until and unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said it too. So we believe that Abu Bakr is going into Jannah. And we believe that Iblis is going into Jahannam. Why? Because Allah has said it. We believe that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu is going into Jannah. And Fir'aun is going into Jahannam. Why? Because Allah has said it. Otherwise, any person, even if he is the greatest Imam, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, four greatest Imam, even regarding them, you can't say that they are definitely going into Jannah. You can say, we hope that they will go to Jannah. We make dua that they will go. Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon them. And inshallah, they will be in Jannah. But categorically, you cannot say that they are going into Jannah. Similarly, the same thing applies to the worst of the people on this earth. We as Muslims don't mention names and say, so and so is going into Jannah. We don't. Once I came into the masjid, an interesting, funny story. I came into the masjid and I was wearing a jumper. And coincidentally, that jumper was an Armani jumper. Armani. And wallahi brothers, I am sitting in the masjid in the house of Allah. I'm not a very masoom person. I know about trends and I know about fashions. I know about all these others. But I'm not very well aware of the name of the brands. That which brand belongs to which person. And this jumper that I had, it was something that someone gave it to me as a present. So I was wearing that jumper. I came. I think that we had a Seerah class on that day. And just before we were about to start our Seerah class, a person came to me, which I respect a lot. And he respects me a lot. And he's a dear brother. Wallahi, I'm not backbiting. He's a dear brother. But he came to me, and out of his concern, he told me that you're not supposed to wear this. Because the owner of this jumper, or the person, Armani, I didn't know, but this person, Armani, he's a Jew. And he told, these were his exact words. He said, you're wearing a jumper of Armani, and he is burning in the fire of Jahannam. He said this. I didn't correct him at that time. I didn't say anything to him. But I only asked him one question. How did you know that Armani was a Jew? I never knew it. Wallahi, I never knew it. And I have no concern if Armani was a Jew or not. It doesn't make any difference to me. And I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that we don't mention names and say that this person is going into Jahannam or this person. Because who are we? Who are we? We don't have any authority. And Allah has not given us this kind of permission to tell that who is going to Jahannam or who is going. You never know, in the last moment of his life he made tawbah. Or he realized what Islam is. Or he understood what Islam is. You never know. So the point that I was trying to make is that we speak in generalities. We say, yeah, our religion tells us in Surah Al-Asr, our religion tells us that you have to have four things in order to get to Jannah. Number one, Iman. Number two, wake up. Amilus Salihat. And then Watawasaw bil Haqq. Mean that you tell each other about Haqq. Wasiyat karna Haqq ke bare mein. Calling each other towards Haqq. Watawasaw. So you have to have these four things. So we speak in generalities. Then Allah says that everyone is in loss except the person who has these four qualities. And anyone who has these four qualities, we hope that he will go into Jannah, and I hope to be amongst them. And then you say, oh, okay, whoever rejects Allah and does not perform good deeds, he will probably go into the fire of Jahannam. And we seek refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from being amongst them. This is what you can say. And this is what something that we are very, very clearly about. Our religion is a religion which requires us to have a proper belief and a proper amal. These two things have to go together. One without the other, probably we cannot get there. We cannot go into Jannah. With regards to the people of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or in the early life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people knew about the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasallam. They used to say, we are the millat of we are the millat of Ibrahim. We are the millat, and they knew that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasallam never worshipped idols. Abdullah ibn Jada'an knew that he never worshipped idols, but still he didn't believe in this. Still he chose to ignore this. That's why Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said he will go into the fire of Jahannam. One last question that I will answer, and then shall we finish? I got an email long time ago. He asked a question and he said, why do I have to pray if I'm already good? If I'm already good to people, I'm an honest person, I don't cheat, I don't lie, I don't steal, I'm a good person, why do I have to pray? This is the same kind of thing that we are discussing today. We are in no position to define good as a Muslim. You cannot define good, I cannot define good. Who will define good? Allah, right? The world that we live in, there are two kinds of goods in the world that we live in. There are ethical goods. I'm good to my family, I'm good to my neighbors, I'm good to people, I never lie, I never cheat, I'm honest at work. Ethical good, I'm a nice guy, ethically I'm a good person. Religious good, I go to Hajj, I pay zakah, I fast in the month of Ramadan, and I pray 5 times a day. Two kinds of goods, ethical goods and religious. Now in the Muslim community, what happened, unfortunately, we have made a distinction. That's what we have done. We have made a distinction. So we have Muslims, ethically, mashallah, they're very nice people. They're good to their families. They take care of their children. They're very responsible in their household. They're very honest at their work. They're good and nice people. But religiously, they say we don't need to pray to become good people. We are already good people. Because ethically, we are good. So we do. Religiously, they don't do anything. And then on the other side, we have religiously people. We have good people who are very religiously good. So they have, mashallah, long beards, and they wear religious garments, and they go to the masjid every day. They pray 5 times a day. Mashallah, they read Quran. They are religiously good people, but when it comes to ethical good, they are terrible people. They are terrible to their families. They cheat other people in their businesses, and that's why we are Muslim known for, that we cheat other people, right? That's how we know. That's how other people know us. So there are people who are ethically good, Muslims who are ethically good, religiously they are not good. But then there are people who are religiously good and ethically not good. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah gave us an ayah. And this ayah is called Ayatul Bir, the ayat of goodness. And in that ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala combined both of them together. So Allah says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. Neki is not, the goodness is not that you turn towards Mashriq or you turn towards Maghrib. This is not what we call neki. This is not what we call goodness. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ. Now listen to this. Bir is what? Goodness is what? مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ. The person who believes in Allah. وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. And he believes in the day of judgment. وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ. And he believes in the malaika. وَالْكِتَابِ. And he believes in all the books. وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. And he believes in all the Anbiya, all the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then what? After you believe in all these things, then Allah mentioned what? وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ what? وَآتِ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ. Allah says that there are people who give other people money and charity despite of the fact that they love their money, and they give money to all these people. And then Allah says وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةِ. They establish their prayer. وَآتِ الزَّكَاةِ. They give zakat. وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا. When they make promises, they fulfill their promises. وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. They do sabr. In the times of difficulty, in the times of hardship, they do sabr. Listen, these people are good people. When you have all of these qualities together in you, that's what Allah says good. Allah is in a position to define good. So it's important that we understand this point, we understand it here. There are people who are only religiously good, and there are people who are only ethically good. Islam brings both of them together. Islam says you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you are also good to other people. If you have these two things together, then inshallah you will get to Jannah. Otherwise there is no guarantee. Otherwise there is no guarantee. So, inshallah, alhamdulillah, we have finished this whole chapter about our seerah in which we discuss about the early manhood of Rasulullah. In our next halaqah, we will begin talking about the marriage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Khadija and the building of Kaaba, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a young man before prophethood. And these are the final 2-3 stories of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before actually prophethood began. And wallahi, these are the only 2-3 stories left. I haven't left anything. I've given you all the stories that I knew, that we learned from the classical tradition. But these are the only few stories that we know in the first 40 years of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I know that you are feeling that how little this is. You all are feeling that how little is this. But yes, it is little. And it is Allah's wisdom. Whatever we need to know about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before actually prophethood began, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved it. And all of this that has been of no benefit to us, or the reasons known Allah subhanahu, or the reasons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't preserve it for us. So I have given you all the stories. These are the final 2-3 stories that are left. This is something that we'll discuss inshallah in our next chapter. So I keep requesting brothers, I keep requesting all of you brothers, and I keep asking all of you brothers, kindly keep making dua, keep coming and participating. It will get more interesting inshallah. I guarantee you. It will get more and more interesting, and you will learn so many things about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us united in this dunya, and may Allah unite us in the hereafter. Wa akhiru da'wana.